Castle Girls.
What is up?
If you like videos about mindfulness, fashion, lifestyle, and how you can basically create the quality life that you're looking for, then you need to comment, like, and subscribe. Join our family.
We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and with your help and your love, we will be able to get there.
This week, we are chatting with our good friend, Daniel, on our podcast, It's All Connected by Her Castle Girls. We talk about how he lives a life of being a PR professional and a spiritual guide who is a tarot reader, he's clairvoyant, and very intuitive. So it was great having that chat with him, and we hope you enjoy the conversation.
Because this conversation was so good. You know what? Let's go ahead. Here we go. We are so thrilled.
Yes, we are super thrilled.
So thrilled.
Thrilled too. I'm so happy. I'm excited. I'm ready to spill the tea, as you can see. So this is good. This is all healing vibes here. So I'm so happy to be here.
Our good friend, as you all know, we have been working in the lifestyle and fashion industry for a long time. And through the way, we have been able to take on some great friends.
Oh my gosh, yes.
In so many interesting ways. And it's interesting to be having these conversations with our friends because I'm realizing that they are also going through this healing journey, they've realized there's no destination and we are just really flowing through it all.
We're just living in flow.
And one of our friends, Daniel, he is a PR professional.
Yes.
And now I know you hear PR professional and then you have a picture and an idea. And of course, yes, you see this young man with these funky glasses on.
All of that.
And you're like, yeah, makes sense. But beyond the fashion and, PR, there's also an intuitive tarot card reader and a clairvoyant. Someone that's totally embraced their spirituality, embraced their true, authentic self.
Yep.
And he is also the founder of Queen de Tarot.
Queen de Tarot. I can't stop saying it.
When we boil it down, I guess we all have so many different sides to who we are, right? I mean,
definitely.
Just the same way you guys are daughters, sisters, friends, and then the list can go on. I play so many different roles in my life. We end up taking on these different roles, right? And I think at some point I was feeling, before tarot even came into the mix, before Queen de Tarot even was birthed, it was, I think I was kind of lost in being a bunch of different things, And I'm a double air sign, which means that when there's somewhere to be lost, I get there, I go there. So I was just, I think I was just this hollow being, I mean, you would have never, we always had so much fun when we got together. We became
gosh, yes.
You would see me in my authenticity, I'd have fun, but it's also, we connected in a space that I don't feel always supports authenticity. Everyone's coming up, the lifestyle space, whether you're an influencer, whether you're in media, whether you're in PR, you're all telling a story. But is that story authentic to who you are? Because we're all telling stories we think people want to hear. That's how you get the collaborations. That's how you get the partnerships. That's how you get the clients.
That's it.
And we get lost in that. And at some point, we think we are being authentic.
Right.
But then when we get to a point where we feel disconnected, we're like, wait, was that really my authenticity?
Yeah.
Or was that something I felt like I needed to do or be for a reason? And I think we all end up in those places, in the space that we connected in life, in relationships, with our family, with our friends, And that's sort of the space that gave birth to the tarot card, the tarot reader version of me, because I always turned to the spirit world. It was an evolving side of myself.
Yes.
And I always turned to tarot and tarot readers for guidance and support. And I had a very close-knit group who had access to me in that capacity. But then when this pandemic happened, it was just like a full stop for all of us, And then I realized how relieved I was to not have the burden of these various different things that I needed to be. The events had stopped. To an extent, we were all pivoting to figure out a way to do things. We all started to normalize this experience rather than, having to get dressed and rush out of the house 2.5 hours earlier, beat traffic, get somewhere, we get lost even in that, and we're not even trying to,
Right.
So the pandemic really did a full 180, a full stop in all degrees. And it just made me, I could hear myself now. Like, I could hear my thoughts. There wasn't the noise affecting me.
Yeah.
That I could see things, and then I realized, it's time to change. I always knew I wanted to take care of myself better, but I think I was starting to truly understand what that meant. When you're living a busy life, it really is catching a nap, getting a day off, and just sleeping, not having to go anywhere, do anything, be anything.
Right.
I really realized, oh my God, it was about self-prioritization because I was prioritizing everything else. For me. And I know you guys felt it too,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I would say gave birth to the spirit side. Yeah.
I love that you brought up that piece about self-love and self-care.
And the self-compassion.
Because I don't feel that even self-compassion, the word, was actually even in my vocabulary.
I don't think it was in anyone's vocabulary.
I never said that I needed to be compassionate to myself, but I did say that I need to, kick my ass more and be more, I need to get to things earlier, and I need to plan out my outfits, for the week, rather, I was really hard on myself, and I think all of us were.
We all were.
Because that's what we thought success was.
Yeah, because we're just learning from what other people have done before us, and you just figure, okay, the harder I hit, the more successful I'll be. But what's the point of getting to that point if you're burnt out?
Yeah, exactly. But Daniel, a question I have for you is, in your opinion, speaking as a spiritual person, because once you get on the other side, you're on the other side.
Permanently.
You're watching everybody else.
Permanently.
You're watching,
sitting there.
Yeah,
everyone's going through a haywire, and you're just like, popping popcorn.
Right. In your opinion, what is the greatest obstacle that stops people from stepping into that healing space, whether that looks like therapy, whether that looks like healing practices, meditation, whatever it is that you adapt? What do you think the obstacles are that stops people from welcoming that?
The biggest obstacle I find, and this is something I experienced myself, I think you guys will resonate with this too, but often the clients that do come to me for coaching and tarot readings or guidance, they all resonate with me to a certain degree. But then when I start to unpack their stories, we're all pretty much the same at the ground zero of being in our own way. I think the biggest block is us, because if you think about it, I'll use some heavy experiences, but I've healed these experiences, but I was sexually abused for many years as a young child, right? So at some point as a young child, you end up in a circumstance that you have no control over. But as we become adults, we do have control over our thoughts and our feelings.
Right.
We do, to a certain extent, have control over how much we give and how we can put ourselves in situations where we can receive.
Right.
And also we have the opportunity as adults to put ourselves on that healing path and embrace that healing journey. But we don't, right? Because we're caught up and distracted on, again, things that we need to be, things that maybe the families have said to us, shame and guilt. When it comes to our emotions, it's a layered world. It is really a layered world. You can't really separate the childlike you and then, separate the adult you. Chances are that feeling of guilt and shame I felt, I use my experience here so I can describe it.
Right.
But the feelings of guilt and shame I felt as a child, there were other things that made it more complex and layered it as I grew older. And then I needed to understand it at every different phase in my life. Ultimately coming to a point where relationships were difficult. And that I didn't realize how being physically and sexually abused, I knew how it would dysmorph my own opinion of my own body. I had body issues. I struggled with my weight my entire life. I had people say things about me. I knew how difficult it would become to eventually become sexually intimate with somebody. I understood that. I didn't understand how it was preventing me from being vulnerable with somebody else. I didn't understand that. It had an effect on me that completely took me off guard. But that's because it was an emotion. The experience itself was so fluid that I got caught somewhere in the fluidity and I didn't define it. I just kept feeling, and then that's all I was doing. I just kept feeling the fear. I kept feeling the shame. I kept feeling the guilt, but I never ever came to a solution or to a point of understanding what I was feeling. And that happens to all of us. So I don't want anybody listening to this interview to be like, oh my God, like, I need to get out of my way. And then that becomes a toxic process of getting out of your way.
Yeah.
Right. Like
just allow yourself to feel. Yeah.
Right. Because mindfulness and spirituality, I always say this too to people when I'm talking about this sort of thing, or, you know, like they'll be like, yeah, come on this live and talk. And I'll always say, okay, but I want people to understand that, you know, mindfulness has a toxic area too.
Oh, it does.
Where when people fully get into that and they're like, well, if I don't wake up at 5 a.m., then, you know, I won't hear from my spirit guides, and my spirit guides are going to come out and yell at me because I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And, you know, because my child archetype is a victim, I have to, you know,
there.
and yeah, and it goes on, and it, like you said, right, overdoing.
You overdo it.
And you're not really hearing from, you know, your higher self. You're not hearing from anyone because you're still controlling it, right? That whole lovely word.
You're right. And what this reminded me of is this idea of getting in the flow of things, right? And, you know, when I say that and when people say it, again, they do exactly what you just described. They suddenly get into this place where, like, you know, I'm just going to flow. I'm going to flow. I'm going to flow. They don't know what flow means. They think it's, I have to accept wherever I'm at. Yes, you do to a certain extent. You do have to tap into the present and understand that you're here and this is what's happening. But it's about accepting that you don't have control over certain things. That you have to honor your feelings, validate your own feelings, don't rely on anybody else to validate them, and just
we had an incredible conversation, as you can tell, with Daniel. If you want to hear the entire conversation, visit us online to listen to the entire podcast. We are available on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, 7 different streaming services for podcast listening. So wherever you listen to podcasts,
you'll hear our voices.
All Connected by Her Castle Girls is there for you.
That's right. And for more, head over to our website, brightmindsetproject.com, where we'll see more of us, because you know you can't get enough of us anyway. So
if you're enjoying this content, just comment, like, and subscribe. Join us. We are happy to have you. We hope you have a great week.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We will see you again. But until then, bye.